It looked like the dog was being stubborn. He was not being stubborn. He was keeping Rosie alive. Delia Saunders sold houses in the Arizona foothills. She knew properties the way some people know faces. Every entry point, every drainage line, every gap in a fence where irrigation ran. The yard behind her own house. She knew better than any listing she had ever walked. Fully fenced. Large, smooth flagstone path. Desert landscaping she had personally chosen. Ghost, their 3-year-old Siberian Husky, had run the perimeter of that yard every morning for 2 years. Rosie was 24 months old and desperate to get outside. It was 9:30 on a Tuesday morning in August, and she had been awake since 5:45, and the living room had stopped being interesting. Delia opened the back door. Ghost went through it ahead of them, which he always did, a running check of the yard perimeter, his usual first circuit before Rosie's playtime began. He stopped at the far right corner. He did not complete the circuit. He stood at the corner near the flowering sage, body rigid, head lowered, and did not move. Then he turned around and walked directly back to them, positioned himself in front of Rosie, and stood there. When Rosie tried to move around him, he moved with her. She tried the other direction. He moved with her. Rosie started crying with the specific urgency of a toddler blocked from a destination she has already decided on. Delia reached for Ghost's collar. He was not tense. He was not growling. He was simply occupying the space between Rosie and the yard, with no intention of stopping. Her husband Caleb was home. He came to the door and watched for a moment. "What is he doing?" Delia said. "I have no idea." "He's blocking her." Caleb said maybe something was in the compost bin, or a stray cat had come over the wall. He stepped past them to look. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Caleb walked the yard perimeter the way you walk a yard you have lived in for 4 years and are not particularly concerned about. He checked the compost bin. He checked the planting beds along the west wall. When he reached the far right corner near the sage, he stopped and did not move for several seconds. Then he said, "Delia, don't bring Rosie out. Don't come this direction," she said. "What is it?" "A timber rattlesnake. Coiled in the root shadow at the base of the sage, approximately 3 feet from the path where Rosie always ran directly to her sand table, which sat 2 feet to the left of that sage. The snake had positioned itself in the shade during the early morning. It had been there for some time. Ghost had smelled it from the back door. He had gone directly to its location, verified it, returned, and placed himself between the 2-year-old and the corner for 11 minutes, while Delia stood in the doorway trying to explain his behavior to herself. Has your dog ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Arizona Game and Fish Wildlife Officer Terrence Vale arrived 40 minutes later. He identified the snake as a western diamondback, not technically a timber rattler, but of equivalent venom profile, and relocated it without incident. He had done this 6 times that summer within a half-mile radius. August heat pushed them into shaded root structures during morning hours. He said, "Kids that age run ahead of adults." If she'd gone out first, he did not finish the sentence. He said, "How'd you know it was there?" Caleb said, "The dog told us." Officer Vale said, "That happens." The smell is very distinct to them. They know exactly what they're looking at. He paused. You're lucky he knew what to do with the information. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. They had the yard walked by a pest and wildlife company the following morning. Nothing else was found. The sand table was relocated to the center of the yard, away from the wall plantings. Ghost resumed his morning perimeter check without incident. The week after it happened, Delia watched Ghost run his circuit in the early light, systematic, unhurried, the same path he had always run. She had thought for 2 years that it was habit. She understood now that it was something else. It was the job he had decided was his, and he had been doing it long before anyone thought to notice. The next story is about a dog who sat between a sleeping infant and a heating vent every night for a week before anyone in the house understood why.